recently, and I felt like I was reading your diary, and I just couldn't stop. And so Lisa actually brought her book here, and after her interview, I'm actually going to give this book away. So I want to say there's so much in your book, but we only have 15 minutes to cover. In your book, you share various situations that you were in, and being pregnant at a young age, having the choice to be a young mother, even like whether you were raised, the way you were raised, how you were taught, in other words, like situations that you got into on your own, and other situations that were not controllable or uncontrollable. Knowing what you know now, and having the tools that you have now as a therapist and a believer, what would you say to the younger Lisa concerning your faith and your mental health?
I'm trying not to cry.
That's a lot. That's a lot, guys. I felt that. I'm sorry.
I didn't come prepared with a speech, but I just wanted to, speak from the heart. Being a 19-year-old, being pregnant out of wedlock was very hard. I chose to, give life to my son. If I could, and again, I wasn't raised in the church. I wasn't raised with any faith. So if I could tell my younger self something now, what I know now, I would say that don't give up, because even though it looks dark right now, even though you don't see any hope right now, even though you feel defeated right now, because many times I went through my own depressions, felt defeated, I knew that, I didn't know that God had a plan for my life at that time. And I would tell myself now, do not give up. You might feel like you're in the dark, like there's no hope for you. But keep going, and don't give up. Because there is light at the end of the tunnel. If somebody would have told me, when you're 35, you're going to go back to college, and you're going to get your degree, your master's degree, and you're going to write a book, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. You know what I mean? Like, I would just feel like that's crazy. Because who I was at 19, just lost, looking for validation through men, attention, seeking that way. Just not thinking right. I would never, ever, I don't regret having my son. I'm so thankful for my son. I think children are a gift, and they are a gift from the Lord. But I do think now that if I would have known, I probably would have maybe not had sex before marriage, for sure. There was choices I would have made differently. However, I don't regret having my child. But all that to say that what I know now, I think it's just to not give up and keep going, because life, God has so much in store for all of you guys. Like, you may think you don't know. Believe me, a door could open tomorrow. We don't even know. We're here for a purpose and a reason and a season. And we don't know we're going to get plucked out. We don't know. It could be tomorrow, it could be 20, 30 years, but yeah, God has a plan and all that.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
And in your book, you speak a lot about your struggles as a young woman, and even as you were growing in your faith, you had various challenges. Why did you choose the path you chose after all that you went through?
Well, I can't really say a lot of details because, it's being filmed. Maybe one day I will be able to share more details, just because some things aren't exposed completely. Yeah. But just going through depression in my family, people, losing a brother to suicide, going through that, going through my own hardships of just trying and failing, feeling like defeated all the time. I would say that definitely, just to keep going, I'm sorry, you're going to have to repeat it again. No, I got lost in for a moment because I was trying to think how to not say that.
You're going, why did you choose being a therapist?
Yeah. So it was a calling on my life for sure. It wasn't like I said one day I woke up, I'm going to be a therapist. It was like I was in real estate. I was a real estate agent. Before that I was a medical assistant. I wore many hats in life. Couldn't really figure out what I was supposed to do when I grew up. Wanted to be an actress, wanted to do all these things, right? But finally, it just happened where it's my husband's like, why don't you just go back to school and get your AA? So I was 35 at the time. I was going to leave my marriage, which one of the chapter talks about. And I had all the paperwork in my trunk, and I was in church service, and I heard, you're going to have an orphanage one day in the middle of the forest. I was like, me, God, look at my life. I had a child out of wedlock. I struggle as a mom. So all that to say that, you know, my husband encouraged me to go back to school a few months before that, and I went into a lifespan psychology course. And I recognized in myself I have a heart for kids and families to make them healthier. So that is what started the journey. And then that word that came to me that day, my husband had a dream like 3 days later, and I didn't tell him, and I had all the separation. I was married 7 years at the time, and I've been married 20 years this year. But I had all the paperwork in my trunk to go, you know, do a separation. And when that word came, then my husband said, I had the weirdest dream. We were in the middle of an orphanage, and all these kids were running around. I'm like, really? So I was like, okay, I guess he's part of my future. It's not just for me. So okay, Lord, I guess I'm staying here, you know. But that also pushed me to keep going to school. And as I kept taking one step, it's like I didn't know which exact route I was going to take. But it was like, okay, someone came into my path and told me about a program where I got a stipend, and then I worked for CPS for like 4 years. And so just like one thing after another, like God just kept showing me. So that's what I want to share with you guys. More than anything is do not give up, because there is a calling on each of our lives, and it's just praying and waiting for that. Sometimes it feels like it's not coming, but it will come. Yeah, and it came to me.
Yeah. And in your book, you share about times where you felt like overwhelmed. And can you share just some of your practices that you incorporate in your life to maintain that mental health while you're staying true to your faith as well?
I mean, I would be lying if I said I never had anxiety. I struggle with anxiety. But what I can tell you is that in my, you know, learning what I learned about mental health, I feel like when I help people, they help me a lot too. It's interesting. I don't go into it thinking, how can you help me? Because I'm there for them. But in my practice, so many people have taught me things about life, about myself. It's like very introspective. Because why? Because I don't want to be a hypocrite, right? So I'm constantly looking in a mirror a lot of times when people are talking to me. So it's life, if we're paying attention, all of us, like there's divine appointments all around us, right? So I believe that strategically God brings people to my practice that need a certain something, even if I don't speak directly about God because their heart might not be ready for that. Like I always am that vessel. I went to school, had the education and all that, right? But at the end of the day, it's Him working through me. I'm a vessel that He uses to bring healing. That's how I take. I don't come with an agenda, just like today I didn't come with notes. Because I was like, Lord, what do you want people to hear here? So that's how I came. So yeah.
That's really good, thank you. And is there any maybe practices maybe breathing or meditation or anything that can maybe someone might be able to take away?
Yeah, so a lot of times there's journaling that I recommend. I don't know if you guys like to journal, but journaling has always helped me. So like if I tell my clients a lot of times with cognitive behavioral therapy, it's retraining, which, you know, it's also biblical, but retraining the brain. So like the thoughts that come in your mind, how can you change those thoughts patterns, right? So a lot of us deal with anxiety, depression at times because, you know, when we isolate ourselves, that's like the devil's heyday. So it's like, you know, that's why this is so good, this community. Like, even if you don't feel like it, just pushing yourself to get around people. Exercise, I pray. Getting in community, like, even though sometimes I don't feel like talking, you know, like forcing myself to pick up the phone and just check in with people. And again, like, depression happens when we look inward or look to our past, right? But if we can look to how can we help other people, it gets us out of our own head and out of ourselves and places, you know, we're serving. And when we serve, God takes care of us.
That's right.
So that's how it is, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And then also, how does one's faith play a role in overcoming mental health challenges?
Yeah, because I see both, right, in my practice. Some people don't have the faith, some do. Thankfully, I do pray with people. I ask them, like, hey, if you want, I can pray with you. We can pray. So I do that into my practice if they open that door. But I just feel like, yeah, I mean, without prayer, like, it's like, I mean, even if I'm not saying it out loud, I just feel like prayer moves mountains. It really does in our lives, you know. And faith is not something, it's exercised, right? Like, I mean, yes, I wrote the book and all that. Those stories are very powerful stories. That's why I chose them. Or I feel like that's God's book, really. Those stories are there that were memoirs because I'm trying to instill faith in other people. Like, that it's, you know, there's a story in there about praying for a spouse. There's a story in there about, like, you know, not wanting to give up on a marriage. Like, you know, one about the devil's real and how I knew that. And just, there's so many things in there. So I just feel like overall, The main thing is, I would recommend if you are struggling getting in with a therapist. I know a lot of times culturally we grow up like we're supposed to keep things private to ourselves, but there's something, I even go to therapy, there's something so powerful about being able to process with a stranger, right? Like a professional stranger that doesn't know you, doesn't have a bias or a judgment, and that can help you kind of like, even if you just need to hear yourself talk, it really, because we're our experts of our own lives. We really are. And God is the expert, So yeah, I don't know, I just.
So true. That's so true. I can't tell you how many times people have said, Debbie, thank you so much. You helped me so much. And I'm like, literally, like, I didn't say anything. I'm just like listening. You're welcome. And it's just like, we're literally allowing ourselves to vent or talk, It's like, really, we kind of have the answer inside of us. So.
And then you're like, can you repeat that?
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah.
And lastly, what advice would you give a woman to empower her to pursue healthier mental health along with her faith? And I know you kind of said something, but if there's anything else you want.
Just don't give up. Do not give up in life. Keep going, keep going. Stay on your number. I know my pastor would always say that. Stay on your number, meaning don't force yourself into a position or into a situation. Like when it's your time to be called up to management, called there, called here, you will know it's time to do that. And you don't want to go when the fruit's not ripe. So, because it's going to be bitter and it may not go well. Just like we were talking earlier, like the cocoon, the butterfly, right? You don't want to force the cocoon open and the butterfly won't survive. Same thing, you touch the butterfly's wings, it's going to die. So it's like, we have to allow people to go at their own pace, love people where they're at, and meet people where they're at, and just, I would just say, look at everybody like not taking things too personally. So when you get hurt, because I know we can be emotional as women, I don't know, not like all women are, but it's like not taking things too personally, and just knowing that people operate out of their own pain until they get their trauma healed.